It's still in the.
Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York. I'm joined by Ray Clifford in Ohio and Ralph Schrager, who's in the clear waters of the beautiful lakes of Maine.
Beautiful
Ralph,
downtown Damascata.
how you doing up there? I know it's gorgeous up there.
Yeah, the last day and a half have been kind of dreary, but other than that, I'm swimming every day, so that's good. So the lake needs to be fumigated, actually.
Oh, wow. And Ray, how you doing out in Ohio? I know you're getting ready for a trip to Indianapolis.
Yep, good weather again today. We've been going through a lot of rain, but today it looks like pretty much a clear, nice day. So,
Right. Who's in Indianapolis beside the draft combine?
Oh, this is interesting. Tell us, Ray.
Well, I am going to see the movie Oppenheimer at an IMAX theater in Indy, and they're showing it in the full 70 millimeter version, which is what IMAX is made for. And the reason they have IMAX in Columbus, but I'm going to Indy because they're only showing it at 30 theaters throughout the entire world in 70 millimeter.
How long a drive is that for you?
It's not bad, actually. It's about 2.5. It's about the same as if I drive up to Cleveland, about 2.5 hours. So it's not bad.
Yeah. Okay, let's go get back to the New York Jets as we are inching closer to the season. We're recording this on a very, very, I don't know if the word, Ralph, is obscure, 12 noon on Friday, August 18th. It's an odd time.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. Okay. And Ralph, of course, has a Jets trivia question that I was up all night just in anticipation of it, Ralph. So let us have it.
That's going to be the new contest. To anticipate what the question is. Okay. Weeview Bank had the longest tenure as coach of 11 years. Who had the second longest tenure for the Jets?
Is this like an immediate answer? We're going to come back to it.
No, you can come back to it because I want Marty to say, I think I know who it is. And then Ray will get it, right?
That's usually, yeah. So the second most years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jet head coach. And we hope Robert Saleh beats it, but
yeah,
we'll see.
I actually think I know this. Okay. And I couldn't stand the guy. You have no idea. All right, listen, a lot of things are happening and everyone is panicking about the offensive line. And I was too, but I'm not panicking as much. We're going to get into that later. But Dalvin Cook ended up signing with the Jets for a contract up to $8 million. If you look at it, it's has a lot of incentives and he's involved in a domestic violence case, and if he's found guilty or they lose time from this, the Jets have an out. I wasn't crazy about the signing, though it makes the Jets better. And then when I saw that the linebacker, what's his name, that we lost to the Steelers, Alexander.
Right.
What's his first name, Ray? Quan Alexander signed for like $1.4 million. It was driving me crazy because I really wanted that guy back. So, Ray, give me your opinion first about the Dalvin Cook signing, and who do you think might be the odd man out? Or are they going to invent a hamstring injury?
Well, that's always possible, but I liked the signing. I didn't want him originally way back when because I just felt like him and Barkley were wanting more than they're worth in today's football world. It's sad for them because, the running back was always such an important issue and it was a big part of the draft. And
Elliott too, don't forget.
Yeah. I had some funny memes about him anyway. But when I heard the price, because that's way under what he was wanting. And so between that and Breece Hall, I don't want Breece Hall on the field until they are sure he's 100%. I don't want them pushing him in there too fast. And I feel like Saleh is doing the same thing he did with Zach last year on the injury, making Hall sound like he was, doing unbelievably well. And he's, possibly going, I don't think he's going to play the first game. And I think I think he was exaggerating a little, and I don't want him to. I let him, if it takes a couple weeks, 2-3 games into the season for him to be 100%, then so be it. I think Dalvin Cook's a good second option. And as far as who's the odd man out, I think Carter's the only one that has any value of them, which it won't be much, but that they would want to get rid of. I don't think they want to get rid of Bam Knight. I think he's important for, maybe short yardage if we can ever get a yard. But so overall, I liked it.
Okay, and if you were Joe Douglas, is that what you would do? You would get rid of
I'm sure that the one that will get the most interest is Carter, as far as, but we were still probably only talking about a 6th round pick, maybe 5th if they're lucky. I don't think they'll get a very high pick for him. He was a 4th round, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't even know if they're going to get a pick for him. To be honest with you, the way they've devalued running backs. All right, Ralph, give us your shot. What's your opinion?
I don't like the signing for several reasons. Number one, I just don't like his history as a person. I think that they had enough talent without him. Salah said it in his rant the other day, and I've been saying this my whole life, that you could have a backfield of Jimmy Brown, Gale Sayers, and Barry Sanders. Without an offensive line, it doesn't matter. They're not going to do much. They need to fix the offensive line. If the offensive line is blocking, I think those guys are talented enough. Yeah, I think you're right that it puts less pressure on them to rush Breece Hall in, so that's a good thing. As far as who's going to go, I think Douglas will slow play this and wait and see if someone gets hurt on some team and they come calling. My feeling is that probably some teams see Carter as the better player for them, and some might see Bam Knight, depending on their needs and just, the way they evaluate players. If I had to bet, I'd also say Carter. I think he has some value. And like I said, if a team is desperate, they get someone injured, I think they'll get a pick for him.
Yeah, is Ray, what's going on with the running backs right now? I mean, all the free agents are signed. Zeke signed with the Patriots, but I try to follow the injuries and stuff. I know you might follow closer, but is there any news on any other running backs that might affect this?
I haven't really. No, I don't think any major injuries that I can recall have happened as of yet that would have some team like out there looking right yet. I think a lot of teams are probably going to wait till the end of camp to see who gets cut, and unless they really feel that that they can pick up a guy who gets cut for free, and I don't think they're going to trade any picks for anybody like Carter or Bam Knight until they see who teams get rid of. So, but I haven't heard anybody that makes me think, well, there's a team that might go for him.
Right. Ralph, is it crazy as it sounds? Is there any chance that they might keep 5 on the cuts just to see if somebody gives them a call and maybe expose someone else that they wouldn't normally? Is that a possibility?
I guess, and it would be pretty amazing, even especially if they keep Nick Bawden. But I thought about that. Yeah, I kind of like your idea better of creating an injury or something.
Right.
But yeah, they can't hide them. Certainly on a practice squad, they'll get picked up quickly. I don't think so. I would bet against it, but one never knows, I suppose.
Right. And Nick Borden, the fullback, he actually blocked pretty well against Carolina. And from what I've been reading and hearing, I think he's gonna stick with the team. So I don't know. It's so fascinating, like I've been saying, with the with him in the mix with the running backs and the tight ends and even the wide receivers. How they're going to manipulate this roster is just incredible to me. It takes a lot of chess playing to do. But anyway, Ralph, Dwayne Brown hasn't really seen the field. Back then, the first preseason game, they had him scheduled for I guess 25 or 27 snaps. He made it through 7 snaps. And then he's been crying about there's too much pressure on his knee if he plays right tackle, whatever. But what would you say about those two guys, the chances of both of them starting against Buffalo that Monday night?
Well, they have been giving Becton reps in practice on the right side, so they are preparing him for it. I would say the odds are probably better than even that they'll be there for the first game. Now, how many games down the field? If you ask me that, I would say the odds drop significantly that they'll both make it maybe through the bye week. But I have a feeling the first game they'll be there.
Right. Okay. And you think they'll be starting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you have a choice. I mean, those other the other guys are horrible. I'm really what's bumming me out is that Carter Warren is not playing because he's got nicked up. I don't know how. Salas said he should be playing next week, but see, I think he's more talented than Mitchell, and certainly Turner. And I think in a year or so he might even be starting at right tackle for them. I like him, but he's got to get some
Right.
experience first.
And I don't want to jump ahead a year because we're all excited, but I
Right.
mean, I think we all know in a year from now that Dwayne Brown and Becton won't even be wearing a Jets uniform. Ray, what's your opinion as far as Dwayne Brown and Becton as a starting tackles?
Well, as far as if they'll be on the field in game one, I agree. I think it's probably 60-40. I'd go that they will be, barring obviously injury. If they're healthy enough to, I don't think their play is going to stop them from starting them, which is fine. But I don't, how can you put any value on them lasting very long at either side? This is going to be the whole season is going to hinge on the offensive line. And that's a scary thought right now after
Right.
what we saw last year. So
yeah, unfortunately, we've been saying this for 2 years now, but it's finally come home to roost.
Wait, I got breaking news.
What?
The Lions are waiving injured wide receiver Denzel Mims
Oh yeah,
after a practice ankle injury led to a calf injury in rehab. He had impressed in camp and could be an interesting addition when healthy. So
that's practice squad.
I don't know.
So
I think
what are the odds that he clears waivers?
well, I think he's got one more team to go, and then it's up past the Canadian border. I think the way it's going. So go ahead. So Ralph, and we spoke about it briefly, but how disappointed are you? I mean, he only played a few games, but he sparked a little bit. How disappointed are you in Max Mitchell?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a hangover thing from his physical problem last year.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I wish they would come out and say, and I think it was a blood clot circulation.
Yeah, it was
I wish they would.
yeah.
I haven't heard anyone say he's 100% healthy. I keep hearing he's on medication, but I think if something is up that they're not telling us about him, Ralph.
Yeah, because he has certainly regressed big time, which is surprising because he did fine in his limited with his limited experience. You would think that he'd be taking off, but I think that set him back. There's no question. I don't know if it's physically or mentally or what, but he's becoming a whipping boy for Jet fans and coaches. Apparently, it's too bad.
More so than Billy Turner.
Yeah, Billy Turner seems to have Teflon. Nobody seems to be going after him. I hope they have the courage to cut him if it's necessary. Even though he's a buddy of who.
I know.
Yeah. All these guys who he brought over, if they're not up to snuff, are they going to have the nerve to cut him? This would be interesting.
Ray, what about your thoughts on Max Mitchell? How disappointed are you?
Well, I'm really disappointed because I thought if Becton isn't up to the task, that we had somebody that could step in and fill in or even just take over there. And so I mean, it might be the medication. Who the hell knows? I mean, they aren't going to tell you that about anything on that. They would probably feel like that's helping other teams by letting that stuff out. But I think it's just, I hope he makes it through cuts because I really, if it is the medication or whatever, I think he can overcome all that. And he, like you said, last year he looked so good. I don't know what the problem might be. The only thing it reminds me a little bit of is if you remember Wayne Hunter back in the Sanchez days, and he ended up being our right tackle the one year, and he looked really, very serviceable. He wasn't trash, and then the next year he was just absolutely horrible. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what the heck happened there either. So same type of, reminds me of that, but I'm hoping Mitchell's, just having issues with maybe the medications.
Yeah. All right. Listen, I want to get to the Robert Saleh and the hard knocks, but while we're on the offensive line, I added to the agenda, in 2021, Joe Burrow was sacked 70 times. And by the way, that includes the playoffs.
Oh,
And,
okay.
okay, just so you know. And if you remember in the Super Bowl, he was sacked 7 times. Okay.
You almost won the game. Yeah.
And they almost won the game. Okay. Okay, Ray, you're out there in Ohio. I mean, you saw a lot of the Bengals. You saw how Joe Burrow did, and you've seen a little bit of Aaron Rodgers. Could Aaron Rodgers survive a season like that? 70 sacks? I mean,
No, not at all. The difference is that, not obviously not all of them, but a good number of those sacks are on Joe Burrow, not on the offensive line. Their line wasn't great last year, but Joe Burrow, and they talk about it a lot, but if you really pay attention, he holds onto the ball forever. He's not as bad as Ken O'Brien, but he's getting there, where he holds on to that ball looking to, as long as he can to try and find a receiver, which is admirable, because in the 70 sacks, and then he still finds a way to, turn that into a first down the line, because he's that good in a lot of ways, but he holds the ball too long.
But my question was, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, don't you think he's got a much quicker release than Joe Burrow?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. He
Okay.
won't take 70 sacks because Aaron Rodgers won't hold on to the ball like that. He knows to get rid of it. He's he's mobile enough to move around. He's not going to take off like he did years ago and very often. But, and they're going to call a lot more short passing plays for him too. But he knows, he's got the clock in his head. He's not one of those guys that just will, stand and wait and wait and wait. He'll just get rid of it.
Right,
So
I got you.
He'll never take 70 sacks.
Even though he was getting sacked, I know in the scrimmage against Tampa Bay, it was like ridiculous. But I guess he didn't want to get rid of the ball. He wanted to try to get things developed. It'll be different in the game. Ralph, I want your opinion. But just so you guys know, in 22, Joe Burrow, his sack total went down from 70 to 46. Of course, they played, I think, one less game because they weren't in the Super Bowl. So, Ralph, what's your opinion about that comparison to the Bengals that year?
I would say that physically, no, he wouldn't be able to last if that happened. I would say if he were younger and he could handle the punishment, I'd say if they got sacked 50 times, they could still make the playoffs because they could work around that. But no, not at his age. That would not be good. And I think that their tackles have got to be stable this year.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of screen passes and a lot of quick out
plays.
Yeah. Right. And again, I don't want to just be 100% exclusive on the offensive line, but let's just talk about the other item where Will Tippmann, is it possible that he could be a starter at center? And if not center, do you see a scenario where maybe Connor McGovern's at center and they tried Tippmann at guard, or vice versa? Ray, I'll start with you.
I think that's more likely than him starting, barring injury, unless, McGovern wasn't great, obviously, last year, but I don't think Tippmann's ready yet. At least maybe during the season that could change, but I think barring injury or them totally, looking like trash at center, that I think it's more likely he plays a bit at guard this year, and then it eventually moves over. So no, I don't think he'll play center this year unless it's a need.
Okay, Ray, a follow-up for you, and Ralph, I want you to answer the same question. How religious, so to speak, would you be about keeping Elijah Vera Tucker at guard and not moving him to tackle?
I think it's easier to plug in a guard than it is a tackle. So if we're at an absolute, if the both tackles are getting worked like they have been in these scrimmages, they're going to have to do something so that Aaron Rodgers doesn't get killed back there. And I could see him moving out and, somebody stepping in at guard who wouldn't be as good as Tucker, but I'd rather see somebody who's a little iffy on the inside than somebody coming around off the end and just killing him. So it's possible. I don't think they're going to do it unless they absolutely have to, though.
Right. And I want to point out one of the names I mentioned last podcast, Dalton Reisner is still available, the free agent, who's a pretty good guard. Ralph, what's your take on the Tippmann possibly starting this year or maybe moving over to guard or McGovern starting?
I think he will be starting at some point, whether it's guard or center. I think watching him, I think he clearly is more talented than all the other guys on the bench at this point, and probably more talented than McGovern. He just, I don't know if Rodgers wants a rookie right out of the gate, but I'd say at least after the bye, I think he'll be starting. I just think he's too talented, and he'll have had a half a year, which usually is enough for a good player to get up to speed. But as far as Elijah Vera Tucker, yeah, I think he will be playing some tackle. And I have no problem with that. I remember when he came out of college and we were looking for offensive linemen, and I'd see Elijah Vera Tucker and they'd say tackle guard, because his last year at USC, he played tackle exclusively. He got burned for one sack the whole year. It was from Kayvon Thibodeau. So he'd be more than competent, and we know he is. And you got to do what you got to do. And yeah, they drafted that guy for more than one reason. Not only was he good, but he had flexibility, and so you got to take advantage of it. We know he can handle it, and hopefully they won't need it, but probably will at some point.
Yeah, he's been nicked up also.
Yeah,
So,
that's a worry. The last guy other than Rodgers you want hurt is him on that team.
Right. If you remember the game he went down with Breece Hall, that's when the whole thing collapsed after that. Yeah. It was just horrible. All right. It's funny. I'm not a huge Hard Knocks fan at all, but I was getting text messages and phone calls from people from years ago, and including our good friend Steve Albert. He said, Marty, you got to see this, the best ever. So my kids manipulated something on my iPhone because I don't have HBO, where I have like
hey, watch out, they're listening, Marty.
I don't mind HBO Max, and I was able to watch it on the iPhone. And to me, it's been very, very good. And I think all three of us, rather them not be on it and be under the radar right now, but it is what it is.
There's no under the radar for this team.
No under the radar. I thought the last episode was excellent. I like the way they start. I don't know if you saw, they started out with the mentalist. He was like a magician. I don't know, Ray, did you see it?
No, I haven't seen any of it.
Are you boycotting it? Or
no, I'm not. I don't have HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'll find clips on the internet, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's been very good. And, one of the things, and Ralph brought it up, we'll talk about, is that Robert Saleh went off on the offensive line. And
after the Carolina practices,
after the Carolina practices, and I thought it was kind of refreshing in one way. In another way, a person has to be the way he is. They don't want to change, but I think Jet fans have been waiting for something like that right now. And I know on FAN during the week, there was a little bit of a controversy where they're talking about on the team, like Aaron Rodgers is the alpha male, and it should actually be Robert Saleh. But I'm a huge Robert Saleh fan, and I thought it was pretty good seeing him in that way. And I'll tell you something else about Robert Saleh. They interviewed him, and I got to give him credit, because the host asked the question, if you could change anything on the way you coached last year, what would it be? And he admitted, I didn't do a great job with the clock in the Lion game, and I wish I could have changed that, and I learned from that too. So I'm a huge Robert Saleh fan. So Ralph, we'll start with you since Ray hasn't seen it. I don't know if Ray saw any clips of it, but Ralph, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I like Saleh too, and we've only seen one side of him. Now the question is, was he playing for the cameras? I don't think so. We just have never seen him behind closed doors, except when things were going good. One of the things about Saleh that concerned me and always has is that he's too much of a player's coach and he's too positive, and sometimes you got to get in their face. So I liked it. So I read some Jet fans were upset. It was like, that's not him. And really, it's really disturbing because we know Saleh, and you watch him in press conferences. He's a very nice guy. He's very polite. He's well spoken. But NFL coaches got to do that sometimes. They really do. I mean, you got to motivate these guys for 6 months, and it's not easy. You have to change your message all the time. And I was glad to see that. He's not going to do it all the time, but I think there's a time and a place, and that made me feel a little better. Now to me, it's just a matter of is this guy good enough X's and O's coach? I don't know about that. We'll see. But I thought that was positive. A lot of F-bombs, but that's football, man. Everyone does that.
The whole show's been F-bombs.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Feel everything else. So, Ray, I know you.
Ever since Rex, I mean, once he was afraid to let loose, they all do now.
That's it. Ray, any thoughts, even though I know you didn't see it? I don't know if you saw clips.
I didn't, but I will be looking for that because when you mentioned a rant, I wanted to see it. But I like Saleh too. I like that he, like you said, he says he has some improvements to do because he clearly does. But I don't fall for the stuff that you hear from him in the press conferences where he's always backing his guys. And really, I always felt like in the locker room at some point he's ripping these guys. I just think as long as you do it the right way, they respect you for it. And I think as far as how he was, I'd like to see it too. So I'll definitely be looking for that clip.
Well, funny. My father, I think my whole life as a kid, raised his voice to me twice, and boy, did it get my attention.
Yeah.
If you do it constantly, they tune you out. So I'm thinking, hopefully he does pick his spots.
Ralph, I think we had the same father. My father raised his voice once to me, but go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry, Ralph. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are coaches who are like, out of control all the time, and players can't stand playing for them. And the other thing I'll say about Saleh, I was watching the show with Tammy, my lady friend, and she asked me in the middle of the show, "What do you think of this coach?" And one thing I said to her is, I said, the one thing about Saleh you have to say is, he's the first Jet head coach that players on other teams, free agents, have actually said they would like to play for.
Right.
So that is really refreshing. It's really nice. And so I have to feel like he does pick his spots, and he's not just one of these psychos who players can't stand, I know.
Yeah,
he'll always have their back in the press conferences. And I think that's what these fans are falling for, is that he's like that all the time. And he's you can tell just by certain things he says sometimes that he's got some fire to him, but he just doesn't show it in front of the media, which is good. I don't want him showing it then. I want him just keep it behind the scenes. He even said, I don't like ripping them in public. I won't rip them on the sideline for the cameras. And I like that, as long as you rip them at some point when they deserve it. Yeah. I don't need to see it.
Right. Ralph, if you remember when he first became coach, I remember in an interview, he was saying, one of my motivations is to help get these players as much money as they could make in their career. And I never heard a coach say that before in my life. But, he did a great thing this week. It kind of went under the radar. They had scheduled back-to-back scrimmages with Carolina before the game, and then back-to-back scrimmages with Tampa Bay before the game, which is tomorrow. The second scrimmage against Carolina was rained out, and they just ended up practicing. But I think he realized that having back-to-back scrimmages was a little counterproductive. Plus, I even said beforehand, the second one is just going to be like a lot of fighting between the teams. And he canceled the second practice, a little controversy with Tampa Bay because they had it scheduled in. But I thought that was a subtle but a very good move to do. So I got to give him credit for that. Anything else before we get back to the trivia question? Ray, you want to add something about the Pac-12 college football?
Pac-2.
Yeah, pretty soon. Well, if it's even around, it'll be more like the what is it, the Western Athletic Conference or whatever they have left with, Idaho and all the Western, Northwestern teams. But no, I think it's sad for me because I grew up in the age of, the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl and all that being the big deal. And now you got, USC and UCLA and Oregon and who was the other one going to the Big Ten, the Big 25 or whatever.
Washington, yeah, it's a Washington.
Yeah, Washington. And then that's, there's going to be 2 huge conferences and all the also rans as far as conferences go. So they'll get most of the playoff spots because they'll have all the attention on them. But I don't think it's good for college football. It's all about money. It's all
when are they expanding the field? Is it next year?
Next year, I believe, is it goes to, was it 12?
I thought it was 2 years, and I had predicted that they're going to move it up, but I'm not quite 100%.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not sure, but everything is going towards my prediction I made like 5 years ago, where eventually you're going to have conferences. One's going to be the Amazon conference. One's going to be the Apple computer conference. Mark my words, one's going to be the Microsoft conference. That's going to happen.
What about the Jets Rewind Conference? We get
that's in there. We're saving our pace.
That'll be Boise State and Texas Southern. Yeah.
Oh, Boise would be unhappy to hear that one.
Well, Ralph, we'll have an Elgin Baylor conference, all the colleges he went to, which would be good. All right. Anyway, let's get back to the trivia question, Ralph. Why don't you mention it again? I think I know. I'm going to let Ray go, but I'm going to write it down so I can hold it up if he gets it right. Go ahead.
Right. This is like the.
I don't think I'm right, but
I'll repeat the question. Well, WeView Bank has the longest tenure as head coach for the Jets, 11 years. Who is the second longest tenured coach for the Jets in their history?
I have like 3 guys in mind, and probably
it's only one though.
Probably they're all wrong too, but I'm going to go with Walt Michaels.
Oh, wow. I didn't think. I'm going to go with Joe Walton.
Marty got it.
Marty.
I figured it. Yeah, I remember.
Walton 7 years, Michaels and Ryan 6 years.
Ralph, you don't remember. Right. We were on the phone. I mean, like, you don't even remember this, like every other night saying, when are they going to fire this guy? When are they going to fire? We were on the phone for like 2 or 3 years.
And I knew Marty got it when he said, I couldn't stand this guy.
Oh, I couldn't stand it. And
I didn't realize he was there 7 years. Holy cow.
Yes.
That's terrible.
83 to 89. Yeah.
To his credit, he was a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't he come from Pittsburgh as a coordinator, or did he go to Pittsburgh after?
He went to Pittsburgh afterwards. And there's an interesting story about that too. And it's not complimentary to Joe Walton, but then they fired him, they brought another one, and they said to him, what's the first thing you're going to do? He said, the first thing I'm doing is taking the old playbook and I'm taking 90% of the stuff out of it. He said, it's this thick, I'm going to make it this thick. He said, it takes a PhD to learn what's in the book, and you can't do that with these college football players. So I thought that was, it's a rank out on Walton, but it's smart. You got to keep it simple.
It's funny. I saw this thing on online the other day, popped up, where Tua Tagovailoa is talking to some press people, and he says, I'm gonna call a play that I call in the huddle, and I want you to try and repeat it. And it's just unbelievable. I don't know how these guys do it. I really don't.
I don't know. I really don't know, too.
I mean, I begin to feel for Denzel Mims.
Yeah, okay. I know. Exactly. All right, here, before we go, you brought up Tua, quarterback for the
Miami. Is really having trouble.
All right, this is the question. I'll start with Ray. There's 17 games in the season. Mike White's the backup. Ralph just mentioned he's having trouble. If I told you the games he starts, the over-under is 10.5, what would you take, Ralph?
I'll probably
Ray, let's start with Ray. Over or under, Ray?
For Tua?
Yes.
Okay. 10.5. Until I see he can say, I'm going to say it's going to be under it. I think these injuries add up, and if he takes one bad hit to the head again, I think it'll have them out significant
They
time.
just lost their tackle too.
No, apparently it wasn't that serious.
Oh, really?
I saw, yeah, they came out. And again, I got to see a follow-up, but I heard it wasn't as bad as they thought. But go ahead, Ralph. What's yours? 10.5.
I'd probably go under as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll play against Mike White. That'll be
I
fun.
was just
Oh,
saying,
I'll
he'll
be
be just in
Well,
time.
at least we won't have to worry about him running around outside the pocket. That's
yeah, that's right. That'll be fun. All right, we're gonna close this out. The Jet game is I guess tomorrow. They're playing Tampa Bay. You know,
7 or 8 o'clock, is it? What is
something
it?
like that. I think it's 7:30. I guess CBS. It's the return of Todd Bowles, Ray's favorite coach, Mr.
Well,
Excitement.
Todd Bowles is the only coach in the last 12 years for the Jets to have a winning record. So,
That's true.
He still missed the
Absolutely
playoffs,
true.
so didn't he?
yeah.
And here's a guy that he might not be a great head coach, but he's an excellent coordinator.
Yeah.
Which is
Which you can say about a lot of people. in NFL history.
It's such a fascinating trend. It really is. It's really
It's
amazing.
just a totally different job description. That's the thing.
I don't understand why they think because you're a great offensive coordinator that automatically makes you a great head coach. I don't.
You know, Marty, a guy who wasn't an offensive coordinator and you liked him was that guy Dan Campbell, who
Yes.
came out of.
I did like him.
He looks like he's okay.
Right.
You know.
But also Harbaugh of the Ravens, he was a special teams coach.
Brian Flores was not. He wasn't a defensive coordinator either. I think he was linebacker coach
For New England.
Yeah, they pulled him, and I still thought he did a good job.
He did a really good. He never should have gotten fired. Yeah. Never should have. All right, we're going to close this out for Ray Clifford, Ralph Schrager, and Marty Schupak. Enjoy the Jets games, and until next time. Oh, yeah.